What is the funniest joke you know by heart? A man walks into a bar and asks for a double entendre, so the bartender gives it to him. Another, my sister really wanted to win the double entendre competition this coming weekend, so I entered her. Sweet Home Alabama. A man stands in front of a food truck and reads the menu. Cheeseburgers, $5. Fries, $3. Handy, $10. He walks up to the window and asks the beautiful blonde working behind the counter, "Are you the one that gives the handies?" "Yes, I am," she replies seductively. "Well, wash your hands. I want a cheeseburger." A girl needs to go to her gynecologist for a checkup. She gets checked in and sits down on the table. Doctor says, "Alright, get naked and spread your legs." So she does and he starts to examine her. The second he gets down there, she hears, "Wow, you have massive vagina. Wow, you have massive vagina." She gets all offended and says, "Well, you didn't have to say it twice." He said, "I didn't. Took me a moment." I'd tell you a joke about Jonestown, but the punchline is too long. One day Jeff went to a bar, and while he was sitting there he noticed there is a piano sitting off to the side. The Jeff talks with the owner and asks him, "Why don't you have someone playing that piano?" The bartender tells him, "Well, I used to have one, but it got too expensive so I had to let him go." Jeff says, "Well, I happen to play the piano. Well, actually I am also a songwriter, and I would be willing to play the piano for you, if you just pay me in drinks." The bartender agrees, so the next day Jeff comes in and starts playing the piano. This is the most beautiful song the bartender had ever heard before. When Jeff finished, the bartender asked him, "What song was that?" Jeff says, "That is a song I wrote called I Screwed Her So Hard in the Butt, I Made Her Nose Bleed." The bartender is like, "Well, that's an odd name, but could you play another?" Jeff plays another and it's even better than the first one. Like the sky opened up and a dove flew down. It was that good. The bartender asks him, "Wow, what is the name of that one?" Jeff says, "That one is called I Had Diarrhea So Bad My Shoe Squeaked." The bartender responds, "Well, that's an odd name. I will let you get back to playing." So Jeff plays for a few hours and then after the 6th or 7th song, Jeff asks the bartender, "Hey, can I have a break? I really gotta pee." The bartender responded, "Yeah, sure, go anytime you want." Jeff goes to the bathroom and comes out. The bartender yells over to Jeff, "Hey, come over here." Jeff goes over to the bartender and the bartender says, "Hey, do you know your fly's down and your balls are hanging out?" Jeff responds, "Do I know it? Hell, I wrote it." This is a story about a man. His wife has told him that if he ever comes home drunk she will leave him. Nonetheless, he goes out. He drinks a lot and throws up all over himself. He turns to his friend and asks what he can do. His friend is helpful. "Go home," he says. "Tell your wife someone threw up on you. And put a £20 note inside your jacket pocket. Show her the money and tell her the other man gave it to you for the dry cleaning bill." So this he does. His wife is at first angry, but he explains. He tells her about the drunk man who threw up on him. He shows her the £20. She looks. "But why have you got two £20 notes?" she asks. "Oh," he says. "The other one is from the man who shat in my pants." 3 men were at the gates of heaven, but there was only room for one person. Saint Peter asked each of them how they died, and the best story got through. Man 1, "I was adamant my wife was cheating. I came up to my apartment on the 24th floor and walked in, only to find my wife by herself. I was pleasantly surprised until I saw a man hanging off the edge of the balcony by just his fingers. I went over to him with a hammer and hit his hands until he let go. He fell in some bushes, and was still alive, so I grabbed my fridge and lifted it over the edge so it would fall on him. And after all that heavy lifting, I died of a heart attack." "Oh, that is terrible," said Saint Peter as he turned to the next man. "What about you?" Man 2, "Well, I was on my 25th floor balcony doing some yoga and I fell over the edge. I was hanging on by just my fingers when I saw a man coming over. I was so relieved, but then he started hammering my fingers and I fell in a bush. I was alive but very sore. He then threw a fridge over the edge onto me, and here I am. That is just terrible." said Saint Peter. What about you? He asked man number 3. Man 3, well, I was hiding in a fridge. A blonde walks into a dry cleaners and tells the woman at the counter, I need to have an outfit washed. The clerk was busy and slightly distracted, so she looked up from her work and said, come again. The blonde said, no, it's toothpaste this time. Edit. Lovely. 11k points and my first silver for a tasteless blonde joke. Thanks guys. A blind girl once told me I was hung like a horse, but she was just pulling my leg. A Jewish woman has 2 sons. One becomes a doctor and the other becomes a politician. The politician gets elected to the state senate, but the mother does not go to the swearing in. He is elected as a US senator and again, she does not attend the swearing in. Finally, he is elected as the US president and she agrees to attend the inauguration. While he is reciting the oath of office, the woman pokes the man sitting next to her and says, see that guy up there? His brother's a doctor. 2 nuns sitting on a park bench when a flasher walks past. Opens his coat and shows his bits. One nun had a stroke, the other couldn't reach. 2 nuns are sat in the park one quiet evening and a vampire appears. One nun says, quick, show him your cross. The other nun says, bugger off, you tooth idiot. We're trying to have a nice evening. Knock knock. Who's there? Owls. Owls who? Yes they do. To be followed up with, knock knock. Who's there? Cows. Cows who? No owls who? Cows moo. Did you hear about the restaurant on the moon? Great food, no atmosphere. The other day my girlfriend angrily asked me, are you even listening to me? Which is a really weird way to start a conversation if you ask me. A 17-year-old male walks into a drugstore. He says, I've been invited to Christmas dinner at my new girlfriend's house. Afterwards I hope there is a chance I get lucky, if you know what I mean. Clark. How about condoms then? They could come in handy. Here's a pack. The young man after paying walks to the door, stops, smiles, comes back. You know what? The mom is also smoking hot. I think I'll take another pack, just in case I get extra lucky. Christmas Eve comes around. The boy sits at the dinner table and the mom asks him to lead the family in saying grace. So the boy complied and starts praying, and praying, and praying. After a while the daughter leans over and quietly says to him, I had no idea you were so religious. To which the boy replies, I had no idea your dad was a pharmacist. How do you find Will Smith in the snow? Look for the Fresh Prince. What have you got when you are holding 2 green balls in your hand? Kermit's full attention. Why don't you see hippos hiding in trees? Cause they're really good at it. A woman promises to teach her boyfriend what 69 is. He lies on the floor and she squats down over his face to assume the position and farts. Embarrassed, she stands up and apologizes. She squats down for another go but farts again. She gets up and apologizes again. Before she can have a third go, her boyfriend gets up and goes to walk out saying, yeah, this isn't really for me. I'm not having 67 more of those in my face. 2 fish are in a tank. One looks at the other and says, hey, do you know how to drive this thing? What do you call it when Batman leaves church in the middle of service? Christian Bale. What's the difference between a good joke and a bad joke timing? How does every racist joke start? By looking around. What's ET short for? He's got little legs. Helen Keller walked into a bar. Then a table. Then a chair. I was recently diagnosed as colorblind. It totally came out of the green. A nun was sitting in the bathtub and there's a knock at the door. She asks who is it, and the voice says it's the blind man. She decides there's no harm in inviting the blind fellow in while bathing, so calls out for him to come in. In comes a guy in overalls with a tool belt on, looks at her in the bath and says, nice tits, where do you want me to hang the blind? What do you get when you mix an elephant with a rhino? Elephino. Sherlock and Watson go camping. After a nice meal they go to sleep. A few hours later Sherlock wakes up, nudges Watson and says, Watson, look up and tell me what you see. Watson replies, I see millions of stars. And what do you deduce? I think that perhaps there are many planets quite like ours, and that we are not alone in this universe. Very good, Watson. But as usual you have missed everything of importance. How so? Watson, someone has stolen our tent. We are heading down to the Autopsy Club tonight. It's open mic night. A blonde is sitting with her friend watching the news. She hears the newscaster say 9 Brazilian men have died following an earthquake earlier today. The blonde turns to her friends and asks, "How many is a Brazilian?" "You can say George Bush, it's okay." A man sat in a restaurant flags the waiter down and asks, "Excuse me, can you tell me how you prepare your chicken?" "Oh, very simply, sir. We just straight up tell them they're going to die." 2 men is on a boat with 4 cigarettes but nothing to light them with, so they throw one of the cigarettes overboard, and the boat becomes a cigarette lighter. My best friend got really mad with me the other day. He caught me sniffing his girlfriend's panties. I'm not sure what made him angrier, the fact that she was still wearing them or that all her family were there. Either way, it made the rest of the funeral really awkward. This one just gets worse and worse. 3 hunters are walking in the woods of Siberia, looking for something to hunt. Eventually, they come upon a set of tracks. First hunter says, "These are clearly bear tracks." Second one disagrees, saying, No, these are obviously wolf tracks." Third one says, "Well, you're both wrong. These are tiger tracks." They were still arguing when the train hit them. A pessimist sees the dark in the tunnel. An optimist sees a light at the end of the tunnel. A realist sees a train coming in the tunnel. The engineer sees 3 idiots sitting on the tracks. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more daily Reddit videos.